I just want to say, don't lose perspective on the fact that this is temporary, and just remember that the music doesn't stop.
Hey guys, James Wilson-Taylor here for Roxanne with another of our video calls, catching up with all your faves while they are stuck at home. I'm delighted to say Grandson's on the line. How are you, man?
Hanging in there, James. How you doing?
Good, man. Good to see you. Glad you are hanging in there. That's kind of how I've been kicking all these off, is just making sure everyone's okay where you are, you're staying safe, all that stuff.
Yeah, I've been staying safe, thankfully. You know, it was crazy. We were literally heading out for a Canadian tour in the country I grew up in. We were going to play a bunch of sold-out shows in Canada the next day. And we are just finished running rehearsals. We're about to start packing up, and we get a call from my tour manager, and he let us know that our Canada tour was postponed, and in all likelihood the Day to Remember tour that I was going to be opening for in Europe was postponed. And it was a really hard day, and I've just tried to stay positive and stay having some semblance of productive in this time. I think that for a lot of people that purposelessness can be the most deflating part of something like this. So trying to refocus on putting together my first album and working on new music, new collaborations, forcing myself to pick up some new skills, getting back into recording my own vocals now that I can't work with my normal producer and engineer. Those things have helped keep things moving along, but it's been hard. It's definitely been hard. And I think one of the big things for a lot of artists is, you know, our work is so connected to our mental health. You know, being able to go perform, being able to go meet fans, share stories together, jump around and sweat together and jump into a mosh pit. That is such a therapeutic component of my identity. And so many artists I've spoken to have been struggling to find that sense of purpose and that fulfillment. So I think we're all struggling, taking it a day at a time, and ultimately trying to hold yourself accountable to be productive every single day. Or, you know, at first I was like, I'm going to do 200 push-ups every day and learn 3 new songs and write a song every day, and I'm going to come out of here fine. But, you know, some days you got to just stay in your sweatpants and
you got to take your time with it, man. You got to take your time with it. And I think you're right to say it's about finding those creative outlets, especially, you know, in this industry, just really finding ways to keep it occupied. I'm glad to hear the music thing still kind of carrying on with you, man. And like you say, one point you made there about the live connection and everything. Obviously, that's something that we've had a repeated theme. Everyone I've been talking to really, really missing that. I guess the good thing is with a lot of technology and a lot of being able to actually chat on social media nowadays, you can still maintain that connection with the fans, right? I see you trying to do that online a ton.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if anything, it's going to be interesting to see how certain technologies, how virtual reality, how digital performance, these are things that I had already been having conversations about, but I certainly think they are being accelerated. I think that the future of how we consume music from the comfort of our own home will be changed forever from this. So it's really interesting to wonder what the kind of long-term impact on touring will be. But yeah, I think ultimately we really have no idea. The best we can do is our best.
Absolutely, man. The best we can do is our best. Wise words there, I must say. Talking about touring and stuff, I mean, yeah, like you say, real disappointment because going out the Day to Remember, guys, that's such a great lineup, man. It was going to be such great shows. I hope they still happen at some point in the future. But do you know those guys particularly well? Have you had a chance to get to know them?
Yeah, we've had the chance to connect, and I've been a fan of theirs for a long time. They've been in the scene. It's crazy when you think about how young they are relative to the impact that they've made, and they've been doing it for a decade now. But yeah, we were really looking forward to that, and we everything that we've had to push back is for now just postponed. So I think that it'll be interesting to see whether new lineups come together, whether certain headliners come together and form even bigger bills. I think we're going to have to just wait and see, but It's definitely challenging, because at times, to help me get through it, I've been latching on to any one timeline or trajectory of, oh, this is going to be fine by May. Oh, now it's going to be fine by June. And really, we just still don't have that clarity. So I think living in America right now, it's really a fascinating time. And you can see, hopefully people are really getting an insight into just how much worse these things can get when you have an incompetent commander-in-chief. I think by watching how slow America was to implement these lockdowns, how we didn't learn until, in a lot of ways, it was too late from Italy and from places across Europe. I think now America is really waking up to just how important these things are. So the rest of this year is going to be really interesting. America has an election coming up in November that is tremendously important. And I myself had been working on my debut album. You know, we've accomplished a lot. These Day to Remember shows are going to be great. These headline shows are going to be great. And we've done all that off of just 3 EPs. So we've been putting together my debut album. And behind the scenes, that is still coming together, which is exciting. And if anything, we're just going to have to wait and see how album releases, tour schedules. I think hopefully by the summertime, we'll have a more clear understanding of when these things are going to be rescheduled. But the most important thing to remember is whether it's going to be the exact same, this will end, and we will end up back to some version of normal. It's definitely easy to lose perspective on that. But yeah, this year is definitely getting tossed around, but we will end up back together playing these shows and connecting and doing what we love, which is celebrating rock music. So
absolutely, man. Yeah, very well said. And like you said, I guess that is one of the few things that, you know, schedules are all over the place. We know that with everyone. It's a recurring theme. It's completely understandable. But one of the things that you can keep working on, like you say, is the music itself. And it's really exciting to hear that the album's still coming together. What kind of stage are you at in terms of the debut album?
Thanks for asking. We've been making music for it basically since I got off tour. Some demos are from as early as 2016 that haven't come out yet, whereas other stuff is coming together in the final stages. But I think we're pretty much done with the writing of it, and now we're leaning into the production. Can't speak too much about it, but we have had some collaborations that have been really exciting, particularly on the production side of things. And it's badass. I think that as the music, as this stuff started happening, I had already been wanting to connect with other alternative rock artists. I've had the chance to meet so many people through touring that I once admired and looked up to. So I wanted to collaborate, and I watched a documentary about Laurel Canyon in the 1960s, which is a neighborhood in Los Angeles that was really the birthplace of modern acoustic folk Americana. Artists like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, The Doors. There's so many iconic artists. They were all living in the same neighborhood, collaborating, and I was really inspired by that. So I set out to do more collaboration. So over the end of the fall, I got to work with so many cool artists, including K-Flay, Dreamers, and some other ones. An artist named Femme, who I went on tour with, who's doing some really cool stuff in reinventing kind of emo trap music. So yeah, we've been able to do a bunch of collaborations and make these acoustic songs, and it's been such a departure from the kind of music that I kind of started blowing up with. And I've really enjoyed that, especially now when I think people do need a little bit of escape and people do need a breather. So I've been working on and putting out these acoustic collaborations, these kind of stripped down projects, but I think the album is going to return to what people initially came to Grandson to feel, which is a sense of empowerment and a place to get really mad. So we've got some music that's coming out in the short term that's functioning like to bring people together, but then the album is getting back to ripping people apart.
Aha, it's exciting, man. Very exciting. And like you say, I mean, you've always been very collaborative artists. We saw that from very early stages, whether that's Shinoda or Tom Morello or doing shows with Youngblood or whoever it is. And like you say, we've chatted to K-Flay recently. She was talking about collabs there. And I guess most recently is this Dreamers tracks. Talk to me about working with them in particular. How did that actually come to be, that collab?
Yeah, well, I've always connected with them, particularly through touring. You know, the industry is so small. I opened for a band called Joywave in July of 2018. Great dudes, and I learned a lot from them. Their tour manager was Dreamer's tour manager. So that was when I first started hearing their name pop up. We played a couple alternative festivals together. Me and Nick had some long nights ending up in dive bars across Los Angeles. But they also stand for many of the same things I stand for. Me and Nick went to the Women's March here in Los Angeles together to show solidarity. And we had been talking about connecting for a while. So we decided to do a swap of sorts. So we got together in a studio in Hollywood. And in one day, working with my collaborator, Boone, we were able to put together this song, Whole Lotta Love, or Whole Lotta, which is really a song just about forgiveness more than anything. It's a song about, you know, kind of making peace with the relationships that have come and gone in your life, whether that's a significant other or, you know, friends that you no longer stay in touch with, that those relationships made you the person that you are. And if you can love yourself, that means that you can find love for that other person. So that was like a side of myself that I really hadn't explored in songwriting. It's on a more personal, kind of intimate level. But then we also had to give them one back. So they had a song called Heat Seeker, which is definitely the hardest song that they've put out. It's in your face and it's unapologetic. And they tapped me to hop on the remix. So I threw down a verse on the bridge of that song. Yeah, those dudes have been good collaborators. And again, you know, sometimes you meet people on tour, you meet a young band, you meet somebody coming up. I remember when I first met Youngblood in Las Vegas, you know, you just know with certain people that you're going to be seeing them around for a long, long time. I think that, you know, hopefully if everything goes well and we don't fuck it up, in 10, 20 years, the way that, you know, in talking to Tom Morello, Mike Shinoda, these guys have been seeing certain bands, certain artists, certain tour managers. Some people have been in the industry for 20, 30 years. And I know that's what I want for myself in my career. And I think that when I see that in other artists, I always try to extend an olive branch. And I know that I can learn something from you. And we're going to be doing this for a long time. And even on the journalistic side, you know, hopefully you and I will be doing interviews like this for years to come.
Sure.
So
we'll be keeping talking. Don't you worry, man. 100%. I guess the other big question that you've hinted, there are collabs coming on the album. I know you're not going to tell me who with, but can I get some kind of hint? What kind of musical areas have you been working with this time?
Yeah. I think that we've kind of had two different sides to the album. Some of it is more hopeful and optimistic for the future, and we've tapped. We've worked with some people that I have. Let's just say we've worked with a couple people that I've really looked up to in the past. And then there's another side of it that's a little more pessimistic, that's a little darker, acknowledging this future that I believe in, and that so many of my fans work in spaces of activism to maintain, that there is this really dark other side of this. There are people that are making money on the coronavirus. There are people who actively are suppressing people's voice when it comes to shaping policies that support the majority of citizens. In the UK, in America, understanding that it does get a little dark sometimes. There is reason to be angry. So I think that the album really speaks to that conflict I find within myself, which side to indulge in, whether to stay mad or whether to find hope. And some of the collaborations that I've done reflect artists that have been doing that on each side of that spectrum.
Man, exciting stuff. Really, really is exciting stuff coming there. We have to talk. I mean, let's touch on politics, because at the time of recording, you know, there's some massive news that came out today with Bernie Sanders obviously not continuing with the presidential fight for the presidential nomination for the Democratic Party. I know you were involved in, there was like a live stream concert and stuff. You've obviously publicly expressed your support as well. I guess my question to you, to kind of stay with the positive end of this, what can supporters do, and people looking to do work like yourself in terms of promoting causes, what can they do between now and November to make sure the ideas don't go anywhere? Absolutely.
And I think that's a great question. And thanks for asking. First and foremost, I've been a fan of Bernie Sanders since 2015. I know that I have people in my immediate family and people in my community that didn't necessarily latch on to all of his rhetoric, that might have found him too idealistic or didn't like the way that he went about things. But you never once questioned his integrity, his values. He never once compromised. He was never for sale. And I think that so many young people feel like they can't trust these people in charge for all kinds of reasons. And to be able to see someone stand up who has been working to fight for people without a voice since before we were born, there was something very inspiring about that. And I can't speak for anyone else, but my music was certainly shaped over the last 5 years by his 2 presidential campaign runs. As far as what we can do, the reality is Joe Biden in American politics is likely to be the candidate that will be the only chance of not having 4 more years of Donald Trump. And there is so much at stake. The way that the American judiciary system works, people are appointed to what's called the Supreme Court. It's the highest level of lawmaking. If a decision cannot be made in smaller branches of the judiciary system, it continues to go up. So the Supreme Court is responsible for huge decisions as it relates to the kind of rights that workers have, a woman's right to choose for her own body. These kinds of decisions are made at that level of court. Those judges are appointed for life. You elect somebody when they're 40 years old, they will be there as long as they want. That could be 40 years. There are only 9 judges that are appointed, and they have a lifetime position. So right now, there is a 5-4 majority for conservative values in that line of work. Now, of the 4 that stand for progressive values, that stand for LGBT rights, that stand for women's rights, of those 4, 2 of them are in their 80s. So if you risk having another 4 years, we might genuinely see the structures of American values shaped for a generation. So I think that this is really important. And I think that that's bigger than our differences. If you believe in progressive values, if you believe in climate change, if you believe in the realities that our system is up against, and if you've ever felt like, oh, I'm going to hop on Twitter and denounce any one of the many things that this president has done as far as, like a sexist, racist ideologue, if you've ever felt like it's important enough to go on Twitter, to go on Instagram, and to go on Facebook and share an opinion, that then means that you have a responsibility to do what you can to prevent that from happening for another 4 years. And the way to do that is to vote for Joe Biden. So I just wanted to share that for people that don't see the point if their person isn't representing them. That's how politics works. A lot of people have jumped on a movement that didn't get to go all the way, to give up. It can't be, because these things take time. But I do think that if there's any one thing that we need to be fighting for between now and the election, it is to expand the options for vote mailing. Because given the circumstances, given how scary it is to go into public right now, asking people to go stand in line next to each other for hours to go submit a vote, people just aren't going to do that. So you need to expand the options to vote by mail. In America, you need a witness to sign your mail. who the fuck is going to get a witness when you're supposed to be social distancing? So we need to understand that this has never happened before. We need to either postpone this election, or we need to find unprecedented ways to encourage participation. And the last thing I want to say on it, if you have one side who actively does not want the majority of people to have a voice, how can you responsibly think that those are the good guys? That's all I want to say on it. If you have one side that wants to expand people's voice, and you have another side that wants to suppress the voice of young people, of working class people, of people of color, then that's up for anyone watching this to decide where they stand. But that's the biggest thing I think we really need to focus on right now. And for me personally, I am disappointed. I was hoping Bernie Sanders would be president. I am very proud to have donated to the campaign, donated my time in the form of being able to perform a benefit concert or two. But this is the reality. Joe Biden is likely to be the nominee, and I'm proud to do whatever I can to help encourage young people to stay active, stay engaged, because what is at stake is so important, not just for the next 4 years, but for a generation of policy. So that's how I feel about it. I didn't mean to go on the whole rant, but yeah, it is important to me, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. No, it's nice to hear you be able to speak with passion like that, because I know it's been a cause that's very close to your heart recently. And I guess another positive I want to focus on is the fact that, because even though we're all stuck at home, because the era we live in, activism doesn't stop because the internet exists. One of the positives of the internet and the age we live in. On a similar note, as I've been saying with everyone, music doesn't stop, and I'm sure you've seen the amount of people doing live streams and all this kind of stuff to connect with fans. I guess this is how I want to wrap it up with you. How are you going to be moving forward to communicate with fans in that way? Have you thought about doing more live stream concerts, all that kind of stuff to keep that community going?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that there's a couple things about it. Number one, I feel like the grandkids, I feel like fans of any artist, we as artists are so spoiled. We get so much from fans. I've had fans support me for years, buying tickets to the show when I'm in their city, sharing my music with their friends. I feel like people have done so much for me. And now we're in this time that's really scary, where people have so much uncertainty in their life, in the safety of their family. Now more than ever, artists have the chance to return the favor. So I really do think by going on a live stream or hopping on Twitter, responding to DMs is something I've been doing much more of now that I have the time, trying to establish a one-on-one connection with people. If somebody's going to hop in my DMs and say how scared they are, but my music has been helping them, I get to say, hey, I see you and thank you. That is so rare. It's such a new opportunity as an artist. But I've also been struggling to make sure that I maintain the integrity and the quality of what you can expect when you come to a Grandson performance. So I try to do the live stream stuff as an informal way to just connect, go on and sing one quick song. But as far as a formal schedule or doing a virtual tour, I'm still kind of navigating that, honestly. And for a moment of vulnerability, to be honest, these first couple of weeks I was really depressed, and it was really hard for me to shift gears to I felt like I don't want to look at this as an opportunity. It feels kind of dirty to go, oh, this is such a great opportunity for me to grow, and I could go viral if I do this or that. Like, I too am a normal person that is scared for the health of my family and the uncertainty around my work. Like, my tours got canceled. That's a way that I connect with fans. That's a component of my profession. So I think it's taken me a little while to honestly just make peace with and mourn that normalcy that I was expecting. I had written an album over 4 months, and I was finally about to go back on tour, and that's not happening anymore. So I think first and foremost, I just wanted to take a couple weeks to get out into nature a bit, to take some time and just be alone with my thoughts. I did a lot of writing, and not even writing songs, just writing in a journal and trying to process and make sense of your feelings, I think is so important right now. But now I am starting to acknowledge and just accept that this is the reality. This is how the fuck it is. And whether or not you like it, there are things you can control over here, and then there are things you can't control over here. And I don't want to spend too much time wallowing in the things I can't control. But I do want to focus on how can I continue to give people a space to feel understood, to feel heard, and how can I use the music that I've written over the years to make things a little easier for even just one person. So I will be doing more of this live stream stuff. I am finally starting to do more conversations like this, and doing certain collaborations with other institutions in rock music. But right now I'm trying to just focus on making this album the best I can make it. Finally, now that I'm recording my own vocals, I'm actually working on new collaborations that hopefully will get out in the short term. And yeah, just taking it a day at a time. So thank you for the opportunity to share this, and to any one person that might have watched this or that's still stuck around. I just want to say, don't lose perspective on the fact that this is temporary, and just remember that the music doesn't stop. So your favorite artist is waking up in the mornings and going to bed thinking about how they can better be there for you and what you're going through. So once again, yeah, that's what I'm up to. Just making music, staying positive, and trying to just focus on the things that I can control.
Yeah, a positive message, man, and I'm sure, it'll be appreciated more than you know. I really do think that. And man, it's always just such a pleasure and a fascinating time talking to you. It really is. And I've been saying this to everybody on all of these. I really hope we get to do this face-to-face sooner rather than later, when all this madness is sorted out and we can get back to all that good stuff and that live music and everything. But in the meantime, Gradson, really great to chat to you, man. Thanks for doing this.
Anytime, and I hope to see you soon.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Cheers.